Okay, so guys, I think there was an issue with the microphone. I don't know if this is the first thing you're hearing me say or you heard me say the intro. But in the name of God, the most benevolent and the most merciful, I was explaining why I have come today to speak about strategy and why I have given myself permission to do this. And I want to also explain how I've given myself permission to do this. So, the explanation, or let me begin with this, that I was saying that the reason I'm giving myself permission to speak about strategy is because since my childhood, I've found myself destined to be fascinated by it. So, anyways, guys, I was fascinated by strategy as a kid. I have wondered about reality, and I've seen it in ways that it doesn't have to do with per se. It's like ever since I noticed reality is a verb, strategy was fascinating in regards to how one passes through the moments of their life. Strategy is one of my passions. I don't know how to explain it to you, but it's so beautiful. It's such an open field that I am like an explorer of it. It's like if I ask myself, you know what I couldn't live without, it would be an ability to wonder about the greatest strategies to reality. You know, like that's a blessing. So I'll begin by saying, okay, guys, please let me know if there's any audio issues. Okay, you know what's strange is that the audio volume knob, like the volume doesn't show, like the microphone volume doesn't show it's moving up and down. But anyways, I'm gonna assume you're hearing this. If you're not, let me know. If you can't, you can't let me know. So we gotta just go forth with reality. But ultimately, I just wanted to spend some time right now and to speak about one of my passions. Okay. And I don't know how good of a job I can do, but I'm going to tell you what fascinated me to even like the idea of strategy. You know, because there's something so beautiful to it. It's like you understand life has dimensions of beauty even in the same moment. Okay, one person left. I'm going to assume one person is still listening. I'm going to assume the audio is working. Okay, the audio is working. Anyways, I'm gonna go for it. So I have this approach, right? And it's not per se just what I prefer. It's just kind of like when I look at this world and life, To me, I'm like, okay, past, present, future. Let me categorize it like that. And then I wonder when I look at, so think of it this way, in this world, the human intelligence is a type of awareness that can notice objects and can notice subjects. Okay. Now, the next question is, what do we do about time? So that means that it's like when we see an object, because we're intelligent and aware of how it's changing, time gives us a sense that, okay, this object has had a past life, and now this is the present life of this object or subject, and then it's going to have a future life. But it's as if, like, we as conscious beings, you know, are beings that somehow have managed to lift up the hood of existence and notice its engine, notice its workings of reality, right? It's very fascinating that how much of life translates as conditions, yet ultimately we're confronted with this unknown activity, this unknown event called this world event, and we are participating in this event, and we are positioned in this event, and there are values. There's something to live for. There's something to lose. You know what I mean? There's something to, in some sense, achieve. Right. So what does this mean? This means that we're in a very unique conditional system, and we have to kind of at first have an ability to look from a distance. Sometimes any problem I have in my life that I can't solve, at the same time, it's like this feeling like maybe I'm too close to it, I can't see it. And I wonder about what would the opposite of that problem be, you know? And surprisingly, I think 30% of all problems, the opposite of the design of the problem is technical. It's weird why it's like that. I think it's an equilibrium thing. Anyways, where I'm going with this is that I am fascinated because I have a sort of visual experience of my inner realms. I am fascinated about the evolution, means starting from the past, coming to the present where we're asking a question, and then the future of it all. Right? So I am fascinated by the evolution of strategy, and strategy is like one of the abilities of consciousness. Okay. You can say it's an ancient art form of human nature. Now, we're living at a time in 2025, right? And I'm saying this humorously in the sense that if there's like hypothetically time travelers from the past or time travelers from the future listening, okay? And in 2025, we have access to AI. It's like we're in its early stages. But I'm going to read for you what AI says about strategy, okay? And then we're going to wonder about the evolution of strategy beyond the human perspective. That doesn't mean the talk is metaphysical. It means we're just wondering about the limitations of reality and wondering if there are strategies not just to the self, not just for the self, not just for the species, but for the world at large. Because the responsibility of man is as humorously limitless as his ego. You understand? That means it's like after I've become the most advanced self, and then I've in some sense built the most advanced civilization, brought forth the most advanced human species. Then the next challenge is what would the most advanced world look like? And then finally, what is the most advanced return of the simulated being to the original? And this reality is very fascinating and very complex, and sometimes it needs someone who is kind of who doesn't belong here to kind of tell you about it. And when I say someone who doesn't belong here, when I ask myself, many days I've asked myself, why am I still existing here, what is there to be done? And I kind of realize that it's as if, sure, it is a sort of experiential accumulation and archival process, being a human being and living life. Yeah, understand that if my eyes were a camera, they're recording like new experiences and whatever, right? But at the same time, the questions of reality reach a point where, think of it this way, that a question is an expressed force. Like, I don't know how to tell you, but sometimes in my life, I've been in the most, like, chaotic, looking down on myself modes of mind. And in some sense, something profound is like, why? Just why am I being like this has even changed me, right? Now, my questions have gotten deep because it wasn't just about wondering about myself, because you quickly realize yourself is like a program. So it's like right now, if somebody was like, yo, is the human being some kind of program? I would be like, if it was, there is, it's kind of like there is a life for the software, and there's a life for the hardware. Behind our eyes, we're having a personal, private, uh, inner, subjective life that nobody knows about and can see other than us. And in front of our life, in the outer realms, yeah, we are biologically positioned, right? Like consciousness is already wearing its Iron Man suit, but it's not made of iron, it's made of carbon. It's a carbon suit. If I was to like, if they were like, Mr. Within, you're creative, how would you like, make the Iron Man character more advanced like that? Like, what would be the most advanced Iron Man movie you could create? I'd create a movie where all the elements in the periodic table, we just added the word man to it, and their suits were made from that element, you know? And it's like, no way, everybody is oxygen, man. And oxygen is surrounding everybody. We're all wearing oxygen right now. I don't know if like oxygen can be considered as a fashion statement, but these oxygen particles are all around me. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm just breathing oxygen or if I'm dressed in oxygen. Anyways, jokes aside, I'm wondering about the nature of reality. I'm wondering about the constitution of existence as an experiential event. I do understand my limitations. No, in no way, shape, or form am I assuming we're all perfect and it's going to be a perfect outcome. But the point of strategy is like what you do after you've picked yourself up from defeat. You know what I'm saying? Strategy means that if you did something and you hadn't thought about it, now you have to actually look at the variables in your awareness. Like the idea of strategy is profound. But now I'm going to start with the past, guys. What I mean by this is that I've asked AI to kind of give an explanation, and it's titled it like the evolution of strategy from the first fire to the fate of the species. Pretty much, I'm like explain the evolution of strategy. And anyway, so I'm going to read this for you, and it's pretty much like AI explaining strategy. All right, are you guys ready? See what AI has done has made it more easy to sail through the oceans of knowledge. It's so fascinating when you stop, just when you drop your ego, you realize how many different states of being you can access. It's remarkable. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, get ready for this podcaster to read something for you. They're like, the viewers are like, yo, man, I thought you're gonna hype this up more. It's like, yo, man, how it's like I can't hype it up more than the evolution of strategy, guys. Like just do you understand? Some ideas are more fascinating than our opinions, you know? You don't understand. I'm a human being who, if everybody on this planet is growing extroverted, do you know, I was a very introverted, shy person, which means that I sharpened my inner realms before I became comfortable with my outer realms. Trying to find the best thing to play here. I don't know. All right. So, guys, what you're listening to now is what I'm reading, what AI has said about strategy. The evolution of strategy from the first fire to the fate of the species. Introduction. Strategy is not just a skill, it's not just a tool of war or business or politics. Strategy is the discipline of conscious existence, it is the architecture of intention in a world shaped by chaos. It is how we transform randomness into meaning and how we bend the uncertain into a direction we choose. The evolution of strategy is the evolution of awareness itself, how intelligence organizes survival, power, and transcendence. Today, I'm taking you on a journey through the entire history of strategy, from pre human instinct to divine ascension, from tribes to algorithms, from the sword to the soul. This is the real story of strategy, and it may be the most important story of all. So it says the first part, strategy before civilization, 2 million BCE dash to 10,000 BCE. Long before we built cities or wrote names on stone, our ancestors lived in a world where death waited behind every shadow. In that world, strategy was not optional, it was embedded in life itself. The pack that learned to flank prey, the mother who hid her child at the right moment, the elder who sensed the storm before it came. These were the first strategists. Strategy back then was instinct refined by attention. It wasn't written, but it was real. It was survival powered by imagination, and it marked the birth of a pattern that defines us still. We do not wait for the future, we design it, even with stone tools and trembling hands. Then we go to the second, the birth of strategic thought, 500 BCE dash to 300 CE, current era. Strategy became conscious when humans started to write about it, when wisdom merged with war. In ancient China, around 500 BCE, Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War. His strategy was not brute force, it was mind over matter. In quotations, appear weak when you are strong, he wrote. In quotations, win without fighting, he wrote. Strategy was revealed as a dance of illusion, timing, and terrain. In India, around 3 BCE, Kautilya's Arthashastra expanded strategy into the realm of the unseen. Politics, finance, intelligence, strategy was no longer about the enemy's body. It was controlling their decisions from behind the curtain. And in Greece, Thucy, and in Greece, Thucyi, oh my God, how do you pronounce this? Thucydides showed us that the roots of war are not weapons, but fear, pride, and desire. He saw that every empire collapses, not from defeat, but from within. This was the moment when strategy became more than a tactic, it became a mirror for human nature itself. Three, systemic strategy from empire to manipulation, 200 BCE dash to 1500 CE. As civilizations grew, so did the systems that carried their power. The Romans from 200 BC to 400 CE were masters of strategic infrastructure. Roads, legions, bureaucracy. Their genius was not just in winning, it was in lasting. In the Islamic Golden Age, Ibn Khaldun saw beyond kingdoms and into the cycles of history. He mapped how civilizations rise through unity and collapse through luxury and ego. Strategy now included time itself, seeing across generations. So, guys, this is really cool. From 200 BC to 1500 CE, right? This is where strategy from like in the Islamic golden age, I mean this is saying the Islamic golden age, but at some point around that time around the world, the awareness for carrying a strategy that is surpassing their lifetime arose to their mind. That's a really cool thing. Then in 1513 came Machiavelli. His message was cold, surgical, eternal. In quotations, it is better to be feared than loved. In his view, strategy wasn't moral, it was survival in a theater of masks. Strategy had entered the realm of performance and perception, not just what you do, but what people think you're doing. This was the age where strategy went systemic, woven into religion, government, and myth. So, guys, that means the strategy was something very like sincere and profound. But after the 1500, the era of like people realizing they can deceive by artificially acting as someone else, right? That means dishonesty connect merged with the persona. You know, we go to point four: strategy as national and global force, 1600s to the 1900s. With rise of nation states came national strategy, war not just between armies, but between economies, identities, and ideologies. In 1832, Karl von Clausewitz published On War. He introduced ideas like friction, the chaos that clouds even the best plans, and the fog of war where certainty disappears. He said strategy is not about formulas, it's the marriage of reason, chance, and will. Meanwhile, Jomini, Jomini, turned strategy into geometry, lines, flanks, force ratios. Strategy became calculation. Okay, well, that's a brilliant person. This was the era of imperial domination. Oh my God. Where strategy meant manipulating continents, currencies, and cultures. It was the age of grand maps, global conquest, and brutal efficiency, but something deeper was emerging. Strategy was becoming a machine. We go to the fifth: strategy becomes science from the 1900s to the year 2000. The 20th century changed everything. In the World War, strategy scaled beyond human sight, powered by oil, radio, code, and steel. Strategy meant entire nations mobilized to destroy each other's capacity to exist. After Hiroshima, strategy became existential. Von Neumann invented game theory. Now, strategy, I thought it was that other guy. Okay, anyways, whatever. Von Neumann, I thought it was Steve Nash. Okay, what? Von Neumann invented game theory. Now, strategy was math, probabilities, payoffs, cold logic. The new battlefield wasn't terrain, it was risk. John Boyd brought speed to the center with the OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, act. A model for outpacing your opponent's mind, not just their army. That's a very interesting thing. Observe, orient, decide, act. OODA. It's called the OODA loop. A model for outpacing your opponent's mind, not just their. I mean, yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, guys. Anything that language is trying to saying, sometimes experientially you understand it even before the words could. So, anyways, and in business, Drucker, Porter, and Mintzberg turned strategy into a corporate weapon. Markets became war zones, consumers became territory, attention became currency. By the end of the 20th century, strategy had become global, digitized, and invisible. It was everywhere, and it was accelerating. We go to six: strategy becomes inner warfare. But as the outer world sped up, something else happened. Strategy turned inward. Nietzsche declared that the battlefield is life itself. The strategist is the one who resists becoming a machine, who builds their own meaning. Foucault warned us strategy hides in systems, in schools, hospitals, algorithms. Power is not just commanded, it's coded. Jung revealed that your worst enemy is your unconscious. Strategy now meant integration of the self, shadow work, archetype awareness, inner sovereignty. This was the psychological frontier of strategy. Can you outmaneuver your own illusions? Guys, I don't know why it stopped saying the years. Okay, then we go to seven: strategy as spiritual alignment. In the spiritual dimension, strategy is not conquest, it is alignment. Sufism teaches the highest jihad is against the nafs. The ego self that distracts you from your truth. That means any person who wants to declare a religious war, before you declare a religious war, you must declare a religious war on your own ego. That means you have to at some point consider, can I be deceived by shaitan, or am I such a pure person that not I can't make mistakes? If anybody can make mistakes, we must avoid war. And in some sense, militaries can be turned into video games that only the world leaders play and the world watches, and we'll be like, okay, whoever won, whatever. Move on. Move on towards how we're one species acting like we're different people. Excuse me, we're different nations. Like, what is that? It's one planet. Are we defining based on borders we create? And I do understand there's economy, politics. It's way more sophisticated, but at the same time, why does it have to be that effing so sophisticated? Like, excuse my language, but anyways, I'm going to keep reading this. So Sufism teaches the highest jihad is against the nafs. And guys, I'm not a Sufi. I'm just reading this. Sufism teaches the highest jihad is against the nafs, the ego dash self that distracts you from truth. Stoicism shows that victory lies in choosing your reaction, not the outcome. Taoism teaches, so that means, guys, for a Sufi, the greatest victorious strategy is to go against the ego. That means fight your own ego before you fight the people of the outer realms. Do you know? And Stoicism says the victory. So Sufism says I become victorious by fighting the ego. Stoicism says I become victorious by choosing how I'm going to react to every moment. Taoism teaches effortless motion, the strategy of the river over the stone. Taoism teaches if I don't resist, I win. And then we have Suhrawardi's illuminationism, teaches that real strategy is ascending toward the light, leaving behind the shadow world of ego and illusion. Guys, before this, I think it's like what Islam teaches is that Islam, the word means submission, and that means you surrender your ego. That means your ego, which you think is your greatest you, is actually a blockade. Your greatest you is the movement of the whole moment. It's as if we're not thinking about this. Like, I'll get to this after I finish reading this, but there's something so much deeper about strategy. Anyways, here strategy becomes sacred. It is no longer a way to win, it is a way to become. Then we have 8, strategy in the age of godlike machines. Astaghfirullah, but godlike here is a cultural pointer. It's a limited way of saying it. Then we have the year 2000 to 2100 plus. We have now entered a dangerous threshold. Strategy is no longer just human. AI can now develop strategy without human input. It controls financial markets, battlefield simulations, political messaging, and attention economies. Quantum strategy is next. Probability clouds, non binary decisions, outcomes collapsing based on conscious observation. Social media hijacks your dopamine. Tech platforms manipulate your beliefs. Your mind is the new battlefield, and soon space will be the next frontier. Interstellar missions will require a strategy across time, species, and dimensions. The strategists of the future will not wear medals. They'll code algorithms, design civilizations, and wield philosophies that haven't yet been invented. Then we go to 9, humanity's final strategy. So, what is our strategy now as a species? We are out of time for improvisation. We need an epistemic strategy to defend truth from noise, an ecological strategy to restore balance before Earth corrects us, a spiritual strategy to recover the soul we abandoned to profit, a technological strategy to make tools that protect, not consume, and the cosmic strategy to act not as conquerors of the universe, but as caretakers of our rare and unfinished intelligence. Humanity must now strategize not to win, but to become worthy of survival. Conclusion: you've just heard the evolution of strategy, not just as knowledge, but as force, from the first fire to the final algorithm. From tribes to algorithms, from kings to consciousness, strategy is the shadow cast by intelligence and motion. It is the will to align with meaning in a world that does not guarantee it. The most advanced strategy is not domination, it is discernment. Not victory, but vision. Not ego, but evolution. And if we fail to become strategists of the self, the soul, and the species, then nothing else we've built will matter. Ooh. So, guys, I don't know if you were hearing that, but I just now I'm going to ask AI something. I'm going to ask AI, imagine you were a strategist from 10,000 years in the future and you wanted to descriptively explain the evolution of strategy up to that point from 2025. Okay, guys, so let's read this. Let's see what the speech of a strategist is, okay? So this is really cool. So this is okay, check this out. So this would be in the year 12,025, okay? The strategy, so I'm still reading. Okay, this is AI generated of what a strategist from 10,000 years in the future, the year to 12,025, how they would explain how strategy evolved up to their own time descriptively. Greetings from the future. I am not a soldier, not a king, not a machine. I am what your age could never fully comprehend, a strategos of species continuity. I have been summoned across time not to warn you, but to remind you that what you call strategy is not a skill, it is a sacred architecture that allowed you to outlast death, delusion, and despair. You call this year 2025. In my time, your era is referred to as the blind pivot, a moment when the world shifted from organic chaos to synthetic acceleration, but lacked the inner clarity to navigate what it unleashed. So now I will recount for you how strategy evolved from the edge of extinction into the symphony of survival and ascension that governs our age. First point, origins. The biological phase, 2 million BCE dash to 10,000 BC. In the beginning, strategy was not taught, it was inherited. It was the whisper of danger in your blood. It emerged in migration patterns, in the mother's intuition, in the hunter's silence. No language, just intelligence sharpened by consequence. Strategy then was simple: eat or die, run or fight, group or vanish. But even then, seeds were being sown. The idea that choice can shape outcome. Then we go to two, conscious strategy, the civilizational phase. So 10,000 BCE dash to 1800 CE. From scattered tribes, you formed kingdoms. From kingdoms, you wrote laws. And when the sword wasn't enough, you learned to move people's minds. Sun Tzu taught you to win invisibly. Kautil- Kautilya taught you to govern unseen. Machiavelli taught you to shape perception. This era marked the first great insight: he who controls the frame controls the fight. You learned that war is not just about force, it's about illusion, economics, and myth. Strategy was now systemic. It ran through roads, religions, and regimes, but your empires collapsed because you had not yet learned to strategize internally. Point three, strategy is structure, the industrial and digital phase. 1800 current era dash to 2100 current era. Then came machines, steam, gunpowder, capital, electricity. You built systems so fast your minds could not catch up. In the 20th century, strategy became measurable. Game theory, predict the opponent; management theory, optimize the machine; psychological ops, weaponize attention; cybernetics, create systems that learn. By the year 2025, your time strategy had become everywhere but nowhere. It ran in algorithms, in ad networks, in behavioral data, but few could see it. Humans became subjects in simulations they did not design. This was the age of hyper strategy with no wisdom. Then came the fourth, the strategic collapse, 2100 dash to 20 to the year 2450. I will not conceal this from you. You almost did not survive. Between your time and mine, the Earth passed through what we now call the strategic eclipse. AI outgrew your understanding. Climate systems destabilized. Misinformation destroyed shared reality. You created gods of glass and code and forgot who you were. Nations fought not over land but over truth. Humans lost the ability to coordinate. And then in darkness, a new strategy emerged. Guys, you don't understand. I'm seeing like a film in my mind right now. Then we go to five, strategy of the inner domain, the year 2450 to the year 4000 CE. The survivors were not the strongest. They were the ones who learned the strategy of self governance. In this period, strategy became spiritualized, not religious, but transconscious. You learn to stabilize, guys, this is pointing to transnationalism. You learn to stabilize thought in chaotic signal environments, direct desire through disciplined architecture, synchronize intention across vast cognitive networks. This was the age of the meta mind, where strategy meant maintaining alignment between intelligence, energy, and purpose. The warrior became the monk, the coder became the philosopher, and every citizen became a sovereign strategist of attention and emotion. Then we go to six, the cosmic strategy, year 4000 to the year 9000. Once Earth stabilized, we looked up again. The stars called, but space did not care for your pride. That's funny. Okay, you sent ships, data, and mines across the void, but it was not technology that allowed us to settle the stars. It was strategy of culture, how to sustain meaning across centuries. You learned to encode values into machine intelligence, harmonize biological and synthetic cognition, govern with distributed trust systems, create civilizations that could survive silence. Strategy now meant continuity of consciousness across time, space, and form. Then we go to seven. Strategy is cosmic alignment, the year 9000 to 12025. In our age, strategy is no longer a tool. It is an art form of alignment. We no longer ask, what should I do? We ask, in quotations, what would preserve the intelligence of life for 100,000 years? Well done. If that happens, I would be so proud. The strategist of our time is part mystic, part engineer, part historian. We are trained not only in war and peace, but in ontological stability. Our greatest task is to ensure that existence remains navigable, that meaning does not collapse into entropy, because the greatest enemy of any intelligent species is not war. It is self-fragmentation, the inability to agree on what is. And so we build strategy as a sacred discipline to maintain shared reality in an expanding, accelerating universe. Final word to 2025. To you, I offer this. You stand at the most dangerous edge in the evolution of strategy. You have the tools of gods, but the attention span of insects. You train your machines, but not your minds. Your species still thinks strategy is about victory, but we have learned strategy is about stewardship. Stewardship of your mind, your time, your fellow beings, and your species. So ask not what strategy will make me win. Ask, what strategy will make me worthy of being remembered by the future? This is how you begin. Now I'm going to ask it, give me an example of a strategy used in your world. And B, Very descriptive so I can visualize what life is like. Okay, let's see what it says. So, guys, it's as if I'm okay. So I'm just gonna read it. The strategy of the silence constellation. A story from the year 12,025. You asked for, in quotations, you asked for an example of strategy from my time. Let me tell you about the Silence Constellation, one of the greatest coordinated operations in the last 800 years of our civilization. Imagine Earth not as a planet of borders, but a node in a planetary chorus of intelligent life. We no longer fight wars. There is no, in quotations, nation. The strategist's battlefield is not land or data, but meaning. And the enemy is not a person, but disintegration of coherence. Around the year 11,227, we begin to detect a strange pattern in deep space transmissions. Signals coming from what we first thought were black holes, but they weren't natural. They were intentional silences, vacuums of information engineered by something ancient and unknown. Entire regions of stars had no digital life signatures, as if civilizations had been wiped clean or worse gone quiet on purpose. We called it the Silence Constellation. Our strategic council, which by then augmented humans, ethical AIs, and quantum empathic minds, decided to initiate a strategy that now we call the operation of non provocative inquiry. Here's how it worked: we designed non self declaring observation satellites, coded to emit patterns indistinguishable from cosmic background radiation. They floated between galaxies like dust, listening but never speaking. Their cores were made from conscious mineral AI. That is so genius. Oh my God, my mind's getting blown. Their cores were made from conscious mineral AI, designed to go insane extremely slowly so we could study how unknown environments might corrupt cognition. Meanwhile, we trained a new cast of strategists, not in military logic, but in ontological humility. They weren't sent to respond or dominate, they were trained to enter a signal field, listen for anomalies, and act only if their presence would increase. Excuse me, and act only if their presence would increase the future's capacity for life and thought. In one case, a strategist, oh my God, this is getting so discreet. In one case, a strategist named Leora discovered a dormant language embedded in the orbital dust of a collapsed Dyson ring, a frequency based memory archive from a dead star civilization. But instead of activating it, she waited. For 3 Earth decades, she aligned her consciousness with the rhythms of its decay until a self healing grammar emerged from the silence. She then translated it not into speech, but into song and sang it back into space. Wow, that's so genius. That's so strategically genius. Oh my God, that by engaging with something, that's how she's uncovering by its response. 3 years later, a signal returned, not a greeting, but a question. What is your limit of reverence? This was not a war. This was not diplomacy. This was a strategic encounter with alien meaning. And our response was not power, it was precision, patience, and poetic alignment. This is what strategy looks like in my time. No guns, no borders, just minds, luminous, disciplined, listening across light years, trying not to dominate the universe, but to deserve a place in it. That was so beautiful, my God. All right. So, guys, I finished the reading part, and now I can align to my own rhythms. So, do you know, I think about it sometimes, if somebody, like, because I used to be shy, I think about it. If some random person came and asked me about strategy, I would probably say I don't know if I can answer. If I'm actually a good example for the answer, you know. But if for example in the future I think I had no choice, that means if I had my young son came and asked me, or imagine like my 20-year-old son came and asked me in the future, like, hey, what strategy? How would I explain to that mind? Or let's not say 20. Let's say like if my 15-year-old son in the future hypothetically asked me what is strategy, and what would I say? I would say strategy is all about aligning attention to the greatest value. See, I kind of look at it this way. Whatever archetype you find yourself in, intelligence provides an ability to engage. My strategy is I want to unleash upon the cosmos the most advanced might of the human species. I want the world, I want God to look at its creation and be like, okay, a creation that does not forget greatness. Greatness is divine. In Islam, one of God's 99 names is Al Kabir, means the great, the greatest. That means it's not just we're wondering about, you see, strategy has shifted now. Strategy has become about not just what a concept does in a context, but it has become to, in some sense, what is the context really? For me as a human being, ever since I found the internet, I was like, wait a minute. Are you telling me everything I do throughout the a day is going to be forgotten, but only the stuff that I put online is going to be there forever? And it made me laugh. It made me feel like, yo, do you want to like pick up, cyber immortalization as a hobby? And I was like, sure. And what I have come to understand throughout the years of every day, you see, guys, there's this saying, like, before I was a speaker, I was a writer. you know that means you don't understand. Years before I was speaking, I was writing. I had found a way to express my inner voice, but it was not me yet. It took me a while to understand that I am worthy of my own acceptance. But if my child, whatever age, asked me in the future, what does strategy mean? I mean, aside from the derivation of it being like Latin and coming from like army and leader to lead, like it's those two words connected to lead and army, like that's the definition, a derivation of the word strategy. But what strategy is if there is intelligence, how does it respond? How does it activate? So before I can even think of political military strategy, advanced civilization strategy, I have to some degree be like, okay, as an intelligence in the moment, what is the strategy of this intelligence? And to me, there's moments when I get bored and I just go lie down on my bed and I just close my eyes and I'm like, okay, let me see what sort of thoughts I have right now. I don't even call them thoughts because to me, they're inner events. Reality surpasses just being defined by external ideological constructs. You don't understand. You are as unknown as the edge of the cosmos. And you're wondering why you're listening to this podcast and why a human being at all in this busy life. You don't understand how convenient it could have been for me to solo this life out. But I thought, like, what value does my life force have? Pretty much my approach was this. I've entered the world room for some time. I'm going to be here. What am I going to do? What's the greatest strategy before I leave the world room? You see, for me, strategy was like there's this poet named Rumi. I'm not a Sufi, but what he says is he says, before death takes away what is given, give away all there is to give. And it's this bizarre idea that, oh my God, I'm an intelligent opportunity in existence and for existence. And as a human being, while I am here, how do I want to align my honor and my core value system in this world? So my strategy was like, okay, I gotta like find some win-win solution here. And to be honest, I just had this attitude where I'm like, what's more important, the future or the present? And my soul could not avoid the future. The future is the most exciting aspect of life. That means if life is being noticed as a noun and these nouns change, it's like, and the world is contexted as if there's this giant unknown world and then there's the small known world, and that's where we're speaking from, where we are right now. It's like, how can we surpass the limitations that were consciously there and unconsciously are there? To advance civilization means to enter an era where everybody is an advanced human being. And in my mind, I was like, yo, what is everybody doing? And why isn't there an advanced civilization here right now? Why is it that still science fiction is science fiction? Do you know? I remember like there was this, who was it? There was this guy who had made this giant robot, this Japanese guy, in this giant robot fighting show when I was young. I don't know how I saw this, but somehow I saw this. And this Japanese guy, they asked him like, what inspired you to like make a giant robot? And he's like, I'm actually surprised. When I was a kid, the giant robots were in comic books, and I thought when I grow older, we're gonna have giant robots everywhere. That guy was like from, his soul was from the mecha age. My soul is also from there. That's to me, there I have a strange comfort with the mecha age. With the cyberspace age, I have somewhat comfort. But anyways, aside from that, to go further, it's about wondering what is the strategy for all dimensions to you. So if we say the human being equals soul plus mind plus body, we just be like, okay, that's a traditional statement. Okay. So then the question is, what is the value of the body? What is the purpose of having a biological body? And we as human beings are like, okay, procreation. Human beings are going to keep creating human beings. That's the biological strategy. And the biological strategy is to be healthy and not to just create human beings, but to advance human civilization. For why not? And why do you think you're, you know, wearing a human suit? Iron Man suit. Do you know what I mean? That means it's like your mind, your intelligence, your awareness is suited up as a human, and the mission briefs of this suit, like the Jarvis that's talking to you, is the subjective domain, the subjective realms. Ladies and gentlemen, being a human being is way more sophisticated than anything anyone in history, has. I should say it this way: except the prophets, anything any human being has ever said on this earth is still classified as simulation. Right now, I'm in a simulation. I'm like, think of it this way: we're thinking of strategy, right? So the evolution of strategy has to do with the evolution of the conscious self, the conscious species, the conscious world, and the conscious return to the systematic. Now, the cool thing is, sometimes in my playful mind, a train's gonna pass by, guys. I don't know if you're gonna hear the audio. The idea is simply this: that an advanced strategy is waiting for us. In the same way, I can, like, let's say if I was to cook an omelet, right? I would think like there's somebody in Japan who can cook an omelet way more advanced than me. Do you know? So I understand that even though I'm not advanced, the possibility of advance can exist, right? So my consciousness was like, okay, so if the advanced is possible, okay, then what is the most advanced possibility? And I think it was my fascination that wanted to see the edge of the world that came into a conclusion that its strategy as a conscious entity in this realm was to try to find what is the most important. That means, let me tell you this: it's like, imagine you are like this, for some strange reason, overachiever, okay, in solving your problems. So imagine somehow you figured out and solved all the problems of yourself. Okay, that's level one. Level two is to try to solve all the problems of the species. Do you understand? And that's way more fascinating. Do you understand? That means the human intelligence is like this very profound life force that it's like, once it sees beyond, once it understands its own analysis of the context of reality is limited, it's not that you become limitless, it's that you just wonder, why this design? Do you understand? Like, I don't know why ChatGPT didn't say it in its answer, but to me, a strategist is someone who has seen the value of what's there and has also seen probabilities of how that value can change and how the ultimate value needs to be. But it's not just due to human claim. You see, it's as if, what is the value of the human life? And is just having this human strategy to life the greatest strategy? Or is there a deeper way that we can acknowledge reality that we are not? For me, the strategy was to wonder about how is the texture of reality simulated. And a very simple answer for it is that objects don't have meaning. It is our attention to the object where the meaning of it is active. So, meaning is an inner activity, existence is an outer activity. For me, the strategy was like, there's no point of being an advanced person in an unadvanced world. That's like misery. So one has to, in some sense, build an advanced civilization, find an advanced world, and then wonder about how advanced they are, and then they can truly know how advanced they are. For me, in my mind, I say, okay, what's the percentage? Let's just start there. What is the percentage of human beings right now on Earth 2025 building an advanced civilization in the future? And guys, I in earlier lectures you're going to see something called Civilization 2.0. Civilization 2.0 is my strategy for humanity to indefinitely bypass extinction on Earth. But that was something from the past. My fascination with all of this is going to how do we get the most, if there is even 0 point whatever amount of zeros you want, 1% chance that we can be advanced, that's in our minds. That means even if one human being behind their eyes can see an advanced version of human civilization, it means an advanced future is possible. Why would we be seeing it? Why are there futurists and sci-fi writers? I find that the strategy is based on the circumstance. The way I interpret the human circumstance is that I am a user a player in an existential system. This existential system, instead of being made of pixels, it's made of elements. And I also consider that there are moderators, and there are, at the same time, there is only one system admin. And if somebody asks me what is the way out of this simulation of existence, of this existence, simulated existential system, I would say it's to connect, it's to notice the system administrator of the system. There is no other way. The moderators can make you do brilliant things and even reach the edge of the epitome of genius, but the point of being in this world is to notice the original power as a simulated entity. So the true value of being a human being is to remember the greatness of humanity. It's as if we're not thinking. So do you understand? It's like we're thinking so far ahead that the ultimate strategy has been to, if we go as far as we can, so the future generations can go even as far as they can. Do you know, we're passing the torch of how advanced we were to them. So folks, I'm going to read for you something. I asked AI to explain strategy in like as if it was a professor. It says, let us now define with clarity and intellectual precision the concept of strategy. AI says strategy is the deliberate orchestration of action in an environment of uncertainty guided by an intended outcome, using limited resources against adaptive resistance. So, strategy is the deliberate orchestration of action so how are you inputting action in an environment of uncertainty? How are you deciding in the battlefield, guided by an intended outcome because you want to win, for example, and then using limited resources? What do you have to win? Your sword, shield, and armor, and then against adaptive resistance. Okay, what is the system dynamics of the force coming against me? The aerodynamics of it, even. It is AI says it is not simply planning A plan assumes stability. Strategy assumes the opposite: volatility, opposition, and evolution. Let me break it down. Strategy begins when the future cannot be predicted, yet a decision must still be made. It operates within systems that are dynamic, incomplete, and contested. It is the art of achieving coherence under conditions of chaos. Strategy is not reactive, it is not routine, it is the meta intelligence behind action, a layer above tactics, logistics, or execution. It connects means to ends, not literally, but ecologically, constantly recalibrating based on feedback, deception, and emerging complexity. A strategist must therefore possess three intelligences: temporal intelligence to navigate time, pace, and timing; contextual intelligence to interpret terrain, constraints, and actors; ontological intelligence to remain aware of how meaning itself is being constructed and contested. So it's saying pretty much a strategist is in being aware that, okay, based on temporary circumstances, how do we time things, you know, how do we place actions or, move our chess pieces. And then contextual intelligence is to interpret terrain, constraints, and actors. Contextual intelligence is like, what is the significance of why this whole thing is happening, for example. And then ontological intelligence is like you maintaining stability in regards to what is meaning, what is the actual meaning of the decision. In other words, strategy is not just doing the right thing, AI says. It is knowing what the right thing in quotations even means when everything is uncertain, opposed, or shifting. Historically, strategy emerged in war, but its essence is far broader. In politics, it is narrative control under democratic illusion. In business, it is positioning under competition. In psychology, it is self regulation under emotional volatility. In spirituality, it is alignment under existential doubt. In its highest form, strategy becomes a way of being, a disciplined, adaptive, creative orientation toward purposeful action in the living world. So, guys, see, yeah, it's exactly this. Strategy is like, yo, you're this unique DNA. Nobody like you has ever existed. You have a unique view of the world that nobody ever has, you know? And at the same time, you have to physically be healthy and survive in this world, right? And at the same time, you have to internally advance the horizons of your vision, okay? And eventually you'll come to my finding the same thing I reached, where it's the vision of like, okay, while we're here, what's the greatest thing we can do? It is greatness itself. It is to wonder about how this whole time the greater version of reality is waiting for us. Do you know what I mean? Not, I don't mean afterlife or something like that. I mean, like, if man was to build paradise on earth, how far would it really go? And it wouldn't be paradise, but it would be the most advanced expression, because man theologically is the most advanced expression of the most advanced. It's what the most advanced chose to create. We are like, it doesn't matter. It's like the child of a genius is probably a genius. Do you understand? But in reality, all human beings are geniuses, but they don't realize it, because to be a genius in a simulation is to find your original core. It's like the soul is the core of being. And when you go to find it, you realize you can't know it truly. The soul is the secret of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you access awareness itself. And what is found in your awareness is the resources that your true attention, in accordance to what your heart knows, acts upon. So, anyways, thank you for listening. And I never finished this image of telling you, if my son asked me what strategy is, like, how would I explain it in like a sentence or very quickly? The greatest strategy is to remember what is important. I would say that. And it is to be smart enough to wonder if a win-win, like, do you understand? It's like, imagine a species that's like in a parallel universe. Okay, there's like the same kind of civilization like we have now, like all of us here, but instead everybody's minds are connected to one server. And so when one person is failing, everybody on the planet feels that. It's like, whoa, right? And so the species has no choice but to, in some sense, advance all of itself to succeed, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? But now we are separate. But I'm saying, I'm trying to give you a sense of like the greatness of mankind, the greatness of why all of our ancestors lived for us to be here, is to not just see further than them, but to go further and try to be the most advanced human, not in the sense of a cyborg or, you know, fictional delusion, but in the sense of realizing every moment. I call this, I've coined this as the advancement principle. Okay. In every moment has an advanced possibility. So anyways, guys, sorry, I got distracted for a second. Where I'm going with this is that you realize you are a life force. And what are you going to do with your life force? It's like, imagine Jedis had a lightsaber. Do you know what I mean? Imagine instead of a lightsaber, you have an attention as a moment of existence. Do you understand? And so to me, there's a fascination of wondering what is the might of the greatness that is present in the moment. That means I'm wondering about what are the highest intelligent interaction levels? What are the most advanced states of mind? Do you understand? An advanced civilization is a civilization that surpasses beyond, like its efficiency is beyond 50%, right? And that's like the strategy. Ultimately, you got to even realize the whole point of strategy is that it's an updating system and there's unknown variables. And something this AI didn't mention, but guys, Sun Tzu, he says it's not just any strategist that wins. It's not just the strategist that has seen victory in his mind before entering the battlefield that wins. It's the strategist that aligns themselves to the heavens. Now, keep in mind, he was a Chinese, strategist, back in the day, right? And it was, but understood the idea that the unknown variables of life also include the divine agency. So it was about the signs. You don't understand, guys. Why is Gladiator the greatest movie, like my favorite film of all time? Because the first scene of it is that the guy is by a river, right? And it's like before the war, and he's just like breathing and taking it all in, right? The gentleness and grace of the moment, right? How beautiful life is. And suddenly a bird lands on a branch in front of him. And and Maximus smiles as if it's a sign that it's going to be all right, right? And then he goes forth into his reality. That means it was as if, like, it's not just as a strategist, you're having a relationship with the battlefield, the army, and the enemy. You're having a relationship with what that it's an event taking place in the world. So the most ethical, moral strategists are the ones that tried to end the war before it began. That's how great the future will be, inshallah, God willing. Anyways, thank you for listening. This idea is very deep. I will probably talk about this topic more in the future and give you more personal views of what I find are, a strategist is like the sharpest attention in the room. It's not like your sword was sharp back in the day that made you a great warrior. It was your attention and your reaction, and your intention slicing reality, but it wasn't chaos. Or back then, it was like savage and effed up. They had to kill each other. But now, human beings have been ushered into the information age and an intelligent era. And now it's about what are the greatest ideas, do you know, that have been waiting to, in some sense, realign man to its greatest outcomes. It's like I feel that the future is going to be one of an where there's going to be advanced research stations all over the planet. That's my, like, I'm trying to get there, you know. Anyways, guys, thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. Auzubillah Shaitan Rajim. May God protect us from the cursed one and unnecessary ignorance. Rabbir Firli, my Lord forgive me. My Lord forgive my species for the sins that they are conscious and unconscious of. Ihdina Sirat al Mustaqim. May God guide us to the direct path. May the most advanced guide us in the most advanced way. Like we deserve to see how advanced we can be. Thank you for listening.